Hey folks, it's Dylan here from Eat Wild. I'm partnering with Hunters for BC to bring you a tutorial video on how to reduce the potential transmission of chronic wasting disease. CWD is the accumulation of a protein called prion in the body of the deer. It concentrates in the nervous system, in the spine, and in the brain, and eventually accumulates, causing death of the animal. Unfortunately, has no cure at this time. So our best way to manage it is to have early detection and to reduce the transmission of the disease. We're going to show you today how to debone an animal to leave all the portions of the animal that you don't intend to eat at home. So we're going to leave the spinal column, we're going to leave the bones behind. That's our best way to ensure that we're not transporting potentially contaminated deer carcasses across the province. All right, we're very fortunate for this opportunity to pass on some education about how to reduce the potential transmission of CWD from place to place, from region to region across our province. The important part for us is that we want to leave as much of the organic material here at the place that the animal was harvested. So we're going to take the edible portions of the animal home with us, and we're going to leave behind the bones, the hide, the entrails, and a portion of the skull. First thing I want to show you is a few of the tools that I use for the job. I have an interchangeable blade here. These are those super sharp razor blades that can be swapped out as you go through the animal. I'm going to use this for skinning the animal and anywhere that I have to cut through hair where I'm going to dull my good knives. I also am going to have a boning knife of some kind. That's going to have some flexibility in it so that I can work my way around the bones. This is a North Arm knife. It's a beautiful flexible blade knife, which I love. This is your Victorinox knife, lots of flex here, nice long blade. It's going to be great for boning it out. So as I work my way through, I'll have lots of sharp knives to work with. All right, so just a quick overview of how I'm going to do this. I'm going to start by peeling the hide back on one side of the animal from the legs back towards its back, on both front legs and the belly, right back, all the way up its neck. And then I'm going to peel off each one of the quarters, taking the rib meat out, the back strap, and the neck meat. All right, so I'm going to start by my first cut is going to be going around here, and I'm just cutting the hide. I'm not trying to cut the meat off. If I was packing out the quarters bone in, I'd pop the legs off, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm working by myself, so I'll have to hold this up as I go. I can always hook it behind my leg like this. Now I'm using that, this is a Huto blade, and I'm going to it's the exchangeable blades. They're great for skinning. They're nice and sharp. Now you can see I'm holding the blade kind of flat to the leg here and coming up and through the hide. I'll never cut down through hair if I can avoid it, because you're just going to free up hair that's going to end up on your meat. I'm going to draw a diagonal line right down to its belly here, and then I'm going to work the hide back. And I'm cutting just that fascia tissue between the meat and the hide, and then work my way down as far as I can. I'll be able to get the other side from when I put the leg back down. I don't want to put this leg back down on the dirtiness of that. And I'm going to work my way down the other side of the leg here. So I'm just going to use one of my game bags here, lay it down like that, and that's going to keep that inside clean. Now, always really careful, like at this point, like don't step over top of that nice clean meat. You don't want to drag your dirt over top. Same program, going to work my way from here and down. From the inside out. Okay. So I want to match up that armpit cut with down here. So I can do this cut, open that up right down the brisket, and then I can start to peel this back. And then eventually I'll get to that armpit, and I'm going to work my way up like that. Okay, and this will be really careful here because I'm going to pop some hair off. I want to keep that hair from falling on top of the meat there. Now I'm always trying to work from the top down, so trying to work this all back here. Okay, now I'm making some progress here. You can just sort of see I'm using my legs to prop up the. Now if I had trees nearby, I could tie the leg back. Just give me a little help. And I'm just trying to get this underside here. Okay, this next cut, I'm still working with that interchangeable knife because every time I'm cutting through hide like this, it's really hard it really takes the edge off the knife. But I'm going to come up. I'm going to cut from the inside out, and I'm going to work my way up the center line, just underneath its esophagus there. Try to come right up to the bottom of his jaw there. And again, on the principle of trying to work from the top down, so that I'm not laying any hairy meat like that over top of clean meat. I'm gonna keep working my way down like that. Okay, I'm gonna get down to the neck. It's always trickier on the neck because that neck meat wants to kind of hang on the hide. So as you work your way around the neck, you're always gonna get a little bit of hair on the animal. Best to take it off right away before it gets kind of stuck on there. I've got all the way around now of the neck. So I've got the neck isolated here. All right, for skinning this animal out, we're gonna try and get it right, there's the spine right there. So I'm just gonna a little bit past the spine there so I can work. And as I go, I'm gonna try and like keep this hide so it's not facing down on the ground and collecting dirt. And I can maybe use it as a bit of a clean surface later on in this process. Okay, and as we get back towards the end here, we have to remember that we're gonna leave the tail attached to one of the quarters that's gonna come off here as an edible portion. That's a requirement for the regulations here. So I'll have to start thinking about that right here. So the first thing I always take off is the rear quarter. What I'm gonna look for first is, here's the top of the pelvis bone. So from here forward is the back strap. From here back is that hind quarter. And I'm gonna just mark that with my knife. And I'm just gonna basically come right over top of that pelvis bone to sort of landmark how far back I'm gonna go. And then I'm gonna just work my way down here to the spine. And then I'm actually gonna just run my way down the spine here. This would be the top of the pelvis, I should say. And you can see here, I've got the penis attached to the side that I'm taking off. And I'm just going right, I'm cutting straight down to the pelvis here. I'm gonna try and find where the femur bone goes into the pelvis bone here. The way that I do this is I feel with my fingers first, find the bone. There's meat and there's bone. I'm gonna cut towards the bone as I go. I'm gonna do the same thing over here, find the bone, work my way along the top of the bone with the tip of the knife. We go, there's that top of the femur. Once I get, there's a lot of connective tissue, tendons holding that together. I'm gonna work my way around. The socket there should be able to free up. That's why it's nice to have the boning knife. You definitely can't do this with one of those interchangeable blades because you'll just break the knife. Okay, now you can see the leg starting to work its way down. This is where I want to take my game bag and just have it available to keep it from falling on the ground. So really that flexibility in the knife's important here. There's the hind quarter, popped off, clean surface. Because we're boning this out, it's gonna be very difficult to keep this tail attached throughout this whole process, but I'll show you how I do it. So there's the tail there. I'm gonna leave a big chunk of the hide up here with the tail attached to the hide. Skin is attached to this fat, is basically the only spot that I can keep this tail attached to this animal. I got the tail attached as best I can to this edible portion of meat, which is the regulation. I'm gonna wrap that up in a plastic bag just to keep it food safe. Okay, I just want to show you quickly what it looks like here on this pelvis bone here. You can see that this is a concave cut here, and then that'll free up the pelvis from the femur. But then you're gonna have to work your knife around and down underneath the quarter, here and here. And that's just a bit tricky, but you'll get it. And the hardest part is this little bone here, which is the tailbone. You have to go up and around it. I'm gonna hold that up, and I'm gonna come underneath, and I'm just gonna follow the fascia tissue. There it is. Just gonna telegraph where this comes right off. There you go. The back strap sits in here, runs along the back of the spine. You can feel the top of the spine. And I'm just gonna drop my knife right on top of the spine, and then I'm gonna allow the knife to sort of jog over onto what's the left side of the spine. And you can see how my knife is sort of tilted down towards the bone as I go make this cut. And don't have to be quick about it. Take your time, because these are some of your prime mistakes on the animal. And I'm going to all the way back till I hit the other side of that pelvis bone that we started at. All the way up the center of its back, and I'm going to carry on all the way up the back of its neck here. So eventually what I'm going to do is take the neck off with this back strap. I'm going to isolate that back strap muscle, the loin muscle, which you can actually see it here. You can see the top of the ribs coming up to here, and then there's actually a bit of you can really feel the gap there. So I can start there where I can really feel it. I'm cutting down towards the ribs in this case. I'm going to just run my knife down along the top of the ribs, and eventually I'm going to meet up with this cut over here. And again, you can see how I'm holding the blade kind of towards the bones and not towards the meat. I always like to put my fingers in there, feel what's going on, pull my fingers out, and then go back in with the knife. Now I'm just filleting that out, using that flexibility of the knife to help me pull it out. I'm going to lay that down somewhere clean while I finish up my next cut here. This is something I've started doing a few years back. I like to take this loin off with the neck meat so I can hang it all in one piece. I'm going to run the knife, the cut here, down just to the front of the ribs here, and then I'm going to come down here right where about the neck is. Pop it down and meet up with that brisket cut I did a little while ago. Okay, now once I've got that cut landmarked, I'm going to come back to my loin, keeping it nice and clean. Work my way along the neck here, peeling the neck off the bone here, and then you can work your way back to that landmark cut that you made. Working your way, oh, there we go. Beautiful. All right, so we got our loin here all the way down to our neck muscle. I like this because I can actually hang this up in one shot. Beautiful. All right, so this one, I'm going to clean up a couple hairs off it. They can go right into a game bag because we're done deboning it. Okay, I'm going to show you what I call the rib roll, which is to try and take the rib meat off, the flank meat off, while leaving the rib bones in the field if you're packing an animal out. My first cut is to run my knife on the back side of that bone with some tension on the rib meat. And then I'm just going to have my knife roll over the outside of that bone, and while having tension on the meat, and then I should be able to just run that right up to the top. That. That, and then following the bone down to the inside, keeping the knife sort of pointed, the blade towards the rib, all the way down. Make sure that cut goes all the way to the top up there, and then pull and start again. I'm just kind of rolling the meat off of the bone. So last little bit we want to work on here is just pulling out these tenderloins. These are the loins on the inside of the spine here. And again, you can just landmark with your fingers up here. You can find the top of the spine here, and you can just run the knife along the top of the spine and go all the way back up into the pelvis here, and then you can almost just peel them right out. Just again, cutting towards the bone, not towards the meat as you go. Leave all that stuff behind and just end up with a nice tenderloin. That's beautiful. All right, since I'm in here right now, I'll probably pull the other one out too, landmarking the center of the spine. Go down to the pelvis here. Does look great, eh? Dinner. All right, so we pulled off both legs, the rib meat, the spine on one side. We're just gonna flip it over and do the exact same thing on the other side. But before I flip it over, I'm just gonna go over the whole thing and just make sure that I've got all the bits of meat off. If I've missed a couple ounces here and there, I'm just gonna skin it out. And I'm gonna put that in a Ziploc bag, and it's gonna end up at home in the grind pile, or maybe fried up in the frying pan tonight for dinner. The samples are in here underneath its neck, right about here. So I'm just gonna cut a little bit far back. I'm just gonna just pull that there and run my knife up, just to make sure I got everything right along the spine. And then I'm gonna just cut around behind the ears. Okay, we'll take a closer look at this and we'll pull out the samples back at camp. Isolate that tail from the rest of the job here. And the best way I found to do that is just use a doggy bag, a little bit of electrician's tape to seal it up the best you can. All right, let's get into this. So the goal here is to leave all the bones in the field to reduce weight for the pack out, and in this case, to reduce the potential transmission for CWD here in the province. The way that I do that, I like to have a nice clean working surface to start from. I'm gonna pull out the leg bone, the femur, down to its knee and then down into its leg. There's a little bit of a road map here. If you look close, there's a line here, and the femur goes from here down to the knee bone, and we're gonna follow that seam and we're gonna hit the bone. I'm gonna feel with my fingers, and sort of follow where the bone is and just follow right down. Right, so that seam comes right down here. You're gonna go right down to the bone, and I'm just using the tip of the knife to kind of run along the bone edge. I'm gonna pop out here as a kneecap here. We have to go around. I'll work my way around that bone with the tip of the knife running along the bone. Again, a boning knife is really nice for this. Just in behind the tendon, I'm gonna come in until I hit the back of the knee. I'm gonna work my way back up. And that tendon there, probably about as far as you wanna go. Don't wanna take that tendon either. As soon as you get through underneath, there we go. Come around the top of that femur there. Go around the kneecap. Now, ideally, I want to try and get all this shank meat off with me, just so I don't have a whole bunch of little bits and pieces. Okay. Okay, that's pretty much done. You can, if you missed anything, you can always go over it again, and that goes in that hamburger bag. Hind quarter opened up, pretty much ready to go into the game bag. Okay, next up is the fronts. I'm going to start with the outside towards me, and I'm going to look for the. In the shoulder blade here, there's a bone that kind of rises to the top here that you can feel. It's a bit of a ridge here, and there's a muscle group here and a muscle group on the other side here. It's actually where your flat iron steak is. So I've just landmarked my way down along that ridge down to the flat of the shoulder blade. And then I can basically work my way down, and then I'm going to turn my knife and just follow the shoulder blade. Again, this is why it's so important to have a proper boning knife. Shoulder blade getting exposed there. There's another little ridge right there that we'll have to work around as well. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, find the top of that ridge, other side of it, working my way down and out. Now ideally I just kind of want to keep everything together as I can, so I'm going to have to work my way around. There's not a lot of meat on the other side of this shoulder blade, so it's going to be really hard to keep it all together, but I'll do my best. You may just end up with a few pieces of meat here. It's not the end of the world. So we've skinned off the meat off the inside of the shoulder blade, and then we're going to look for where the shoulder basically connects down to the knee here, and there's another little bone in here. You find that bone, and we're going to run from the bottom of that shoulder blade down and just isolate that little bone there. That'll give us a bit of a roadmap now where we got to get to. Tight as we can. Looks like that shoulder blade wants to come out now. So you can have a look here at that shoulder blade, what we're basically cutting down and out here, down and out here, turning it over, and then working our way across the back. And we're just kind of working our way, working from the bone back into the meat. When you can, you get underneath the bone. All right, we're getting somewhere. And you can follow the bone down the other side of the shank here. Okay. All right, there we go. So just following all the sides of the bone here, and eventually it'll pop out. This is why it's so important to have a nice clean surface, because you've exposed so much meat here, right? So the cleaner it is, the better we can basically cut that right away and turn it into stew and steaks and all the good things. If you roll it around in the dirt, obviously you're going to get a lot less quality meat in the end. All right, let's get this one packed away. To reduce the transmission of CWD here in British Columbia, the best practice for now is to leave the bones and anything you do not plan to eat here in the forest where the animal was harvested. So we've done our best to get all the meat off here. We'll leave this behind and leave it in the forest. Now, if you want more information about CWD, there's links down below that'll give you more information about how to reduce the spread. We'll also be talking about sampling and how we can track where CWD is popping up here in the province. But for now, best practice, let's leave the bones behind and let's enjoy the meat at home. If you want to know more about Eat Wild, go to eatwild.ca. We support people on how to hunt. If you want to get more involved in the conservation community, check out Hunters for BC. They're doing great work across BC. All right, till next time, eat well, eat wild.